Welcome to the Infertility podcast. I'm Candace.
And I'm Daniel. Grab a biscuit because we've got the tea on all things infertility.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. This helps others find our podcast and get even more information about coping with infertility. Also, if you'd like to stay up to date with our story, you can follow me on Instagram at Operation Baby Bump.
Have a great topic for our podcast? Email us at thevanwades@gmail.com.
Hey guys, today I have a special treat. I am going to be calling Alexandra Slate, aka Rockabye Maybe, on Instagram. Let's give her a call.
Hello.
G'day, mate.
G'day.
I don't know. What's the greeting in Canada?
I don't want to be Australian. What? A. It's A.
A. Oh,
What's
A.
going on, eh?
What's going on, A? All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
How's it going, eh?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
bud.
I told...
Is that bud at the end of every sentence?
What?
Like, oh, hey, bud. How's it going, bud?
Oh, bud. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, that's a super Canadian one.
Interesting. Yeah, I told Daniel that I was going to be talking to someone from Toronto, and I said it the way y'all
you
say
said
it.
right.
I know.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm not doing much. I'm just hanging out. Getting ready to talk to you.
Recovering from last night?
Oh my god. It was like my sister works at this restaurant, so when we were like, we'll have the wine pairing with it, they usually bring out like these teeny weeny glasses, and the sommelier was like, oh, here's a bottle of wine for you guys for this first round, and just like left it there.
Nice.
And then like brought out a whole other, I was just like, oh my god, this is so much wine.
And then you feel bad for not drinking the whole bottle.
Exactly.
You're like,
so you just do.
They went through all that trouble to bring me an entire bottle, so I mean,
Yeah.
gotta. I'll be honest, I looked through all the pictures of the food and I couldn't have eaten one thing.
You're a picky eater?
I am a picky person. I mean, I thought,
Yeah.
no, and I moved on to the next picture and I was like, yeah, no. And then I moved on. I would give anything to be a not picky eater, like to really like food.
Yeah.
But
no, you know what? I mean, there's stuff that I don't. I'm definitely not picky, but there's definitely stuff that I don't enjoy. Like, there were oysters, and like I ate one almost because I just felt bad.
Yeah.
But I don't like oysters.
Yeah.
Like they are like anything in a shell like that.
Anything
good
that
to
has the
not eat it.
consistency of snot, right?
Yeah, but like mussels and clams, like there is no point in eating that for me. I'm like, this tastes horrible. I don't want to eat this.
I actually had fried clams as a kid and liked those.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'll eat fried anything.
Yeah, I mean, if you dip anything in
like
hot
a foot.
grease, yeah,
Yeah.
I
don't care.
completely
I'll eat
agree.
a hoof. Yeah, just deep fry hoof. I'll just eat it.
I'm sure that's a delicacy in some countries.
Oh, I
but...
imagine. My father-in-law is Chinese, and he's
Is
like,
he really?
yeah, and he's like, well, you know, the Chinese, they'll eat anything with legs except the table. And it's so true.
Oh my god.
He'll eat anything.
I love
So
him.
thank God I'm not a picky eater, because like going out for dinner with him would be like terrifying.
Yeah.
Because he eats like chicken feet, like all that. I won't eat that stuff, but at least I'm okay watching it happen in front of me.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, it's not good. It's not like, it's so sad. little chicken talons.
I mean, listen, they're dying already, for my nuggets.
Yeah.
So we might as well feed your
Use the whole thing,
father-in-law while we're at it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's making it more sustainable.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like being like, let's use the whole thing and make it worth it.
Oh my
So
gosh,
true.
Lord. All right, Alex. Well,
Yes.
we met on Instagram,
Yes.
as I meet like everybody I know these days.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and really all my friends are on Instagram. I don't really have like real life friends. And I do have a couple real life friends that live near me, but I met them on Instagram, you see. So.
Yes. This is how both of our lives have started going.
Well, I just like it. I prefer it, I think.
Yeah. I would say it's more like Tinder for the infertile.
Exactly.
Where you're like, I see that this is happening to you, and I don't think I want that in my life, so we're not going to be friends.
Right.
I'll just unfollow you.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much easier than like ghosting someone in real life. Like,
yeah,
being like, oh, I can't come over for dinner because I don't know. I don't really have an excuse.
right.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So I guess we could start by giving a little background. I'm sure everybody knows who you are. And if they don't, then what are they even doing?
Seriously.
Is what I'm saying.
Right.
I think I know the story of how you and Alex met, but how did you and Alex meet? Oh, by the way, guys, yes, her name is also Alex, and her husband's name is also Alex.
Yes, things get very confusing when I've started describing something to someone. I'm like, well, I went home, and Alex was just exhausted, and they think I'm just speaking in the third person. They just think I'm like the worst kind of person.
Oh my gosh.
So we met, I was 30 and had sort of gotten to I had gone through already the like fear of like being like, I'm never going to find anyone. And I'd given that up, and I was like, okay, I don't really care anymore. Which is what everybody says, right? Like, stop looking and you'll find it, or stop trying and it'll happen. Like the worst thing that everyone tells you to do. But I was at this club, and I was there late with friends, and, you know, we'd had a few drinks, and it was getting near the end of the night, and I was like, you know what? This really sucks. Like, there's no cute guys here, and this night was like a total bust. And then I was like, actually, that guy's pretty cute over there. And so...
He'll do.
It's like, I'll go suss this one out.
I've had enough drinks. He's starting to look pretty good.
Oh man, he can't hear this.
No, Alex is a sweet guy.
He is. He's wonderful.
He's a cutie.
But I walked over, and I just tapped him on the shoulder, and basically was like, "Hey, what's your name?" Like, there was nothing that I had for after he answered that. Like, I had nothing in my back pocket to say. And thank God he answered that his name was Alex, because then I was like, me too. So
same.
Yeah. So it was like the biggest conversation starter of being like, hey, we have the same name. Alex's are awesome. Like, so funny meeting you here. And, you know, I think it was probably near last call. We probably got one more drink and hung out and danced on the dance floor, because I had friends who were, you know, playing a show that night and playing rock covers. We danced, and then, you know, there might have been a little canoodling.
Ooh, canoodles on the first date. Well, it really wasn't even the first date.
It wasn't a date. I only knew his name, but it was my name, so
yeah.
I feel like that person is safe.
Yeah. Well, let's hope. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, and now it's been 8 years, so I think I figured it out.
Yeah.
But that's sort of how we met, and then he called me a couple of days later, and we booked a date, and I actually canceled that date on him.
Oh.
too, because I had a more fun party to go to, and I was like, oh, I can't make it. But we rebooked and we met, and I just remember being like, I hope this guy's as cute as I remember him being. And he was. So it just sort of went from there, and it was like right before Tinder started, and I'm so glad I didn't have to do that.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have to do that either.
Yeah. I mean, I feel so sad for people who have to do that, because it's just like, it seems like the worst.
I'm not sure I would have been, I don't know if I would have been into that. I don't know.
Yeah. I did some online dating, like on Plenty of Fish and stuff. Mm-hmm. Met a couple nice people, but obviously nothing ever worked out with it. So
I hated dating. I hated. As a married woman, it sucks.
It's terrible.
I hated it. Like back in the day, I found it boring. I could tell within the first 2 seconds if I would like a guy or not. Mm-hmm. And then I'm kind of stuck with them for the rest of the date.
Well, see, my trick was always you do a weeknight drink. Oh. So I could always get out of it.
See,
I was like, we're getting real late. It's like 8 p.m.
Yeah.
I gotta go to bed.
Oh, yeah. See, that's how bad at it I was.
Yeah.
So thank God I found Daniel, and I don't have to do that again, hopefully. I mean, he better not, like, leave me or something and then make me go back out into the dating world.
God. Oh, wouldn't that be the worst thing ever?
I would just, like, Lorena Bobbitt, cut his penis off and go to jail. And because I'm not doing that again.
And then you'd be the only one that would want to be with him still.
Right.
Me or no one.
You're not going to be having any fun without me.
And if we ever have to do IVF again, you're getting Tessie done. You've got no penis.
Oh, man. Oh, God. Yeah, I don't mean that, but seriously, Daniel, if you're listening.
Yeah. Watch out.
Yeah, so cool. That's a cool story. And you guys got married how soon after you met?
A very long time.
Really?
Yes, because we only got married in December of last year.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep. So we sort of did everything weirdly backwards. But we ended up buying a house before we got married. Because that was the most important thing for us, was we were like, we need to have a house, because in Toronto, like, buying a house is very expensive.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then we were like, well, now we live in a house together, so we don't really have to get married. And then we just sort of didn't do it for a long time. And then infertility stuff started happening, so then that became, the priority.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about a wedding. But then infertility stuff went on so long that I was like, maybe we should think about a wedding so that something good can happen in our lives.
Right. So did you guys did you start trying, or did you just, like, get pregnant and then realize that, like, how did you figure out you were going to deal with infertility?
Yeah. So I stopped taking the pill, the devil of all things.
It is the devil.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
And I'd stopped taking that for a number of months, and then finally we sort of had the discussion, and we're like, maybe we should, like, actually start trying. So we did, and surprisingly got pregnant, like, right away. And which was really shocking, because I was like, this is going to take forever, because I actually was very realistic about it, because I knew I was a bit older. That's good,
because I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was older when we started trying. Like, I was 34, and so I was like, this could take a while. And so I was very shocked when we were pregnant right away. But then that ended really soon after, probably, a week or two after I started spotting. And obviously I wasn't with like a fertility clinic. Like no one was like checking my beta levels or anything like that with my HCG.
And I'm sure at the time you weren't thinking about that either.
I didn't even know like you tested that in like a quantitative amount. I just was like, oh, line on stick, pregnant.
Yep.
And so we had our first loss, and then but I'd heard a lot about people who'd had a miscarriage, and so it was very sad for me. But at the same time, I was very hopeful and thought, you know what, lots of people have this, no big deal. Second time, obviously, is going to work. And then it did, and we got pregnant within a couple of months again when we started trying again. We sort of left a couple of months because I think emotionally I needed a bit of time. And then we got pregnant again, and then I miscarried again, but a bit later. So I was really just thinking everything was going to be fine. I even had our first appointment with our midwife, and then had to go there, and they did an ultrasound and found, because I'd started spotting again, and they found out that there was no heartbeat. So that was sort of devastating.
Yeah. Major.
Yeah, because that was really like the second time it happened. I was like, oh, I've never heard of someone having this happen.
Right.
Because I'd heard of the one miscarriage, but two
and then
was
they go on to have 5 healthy kids. Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, it was, what is this now? Like, what am I? Like, what do I do? Who do I even talk to?
Right.
And, I'd heard some people say, you have to have had 3 miscarriages to go to a fertility clinic, which was a big lie, at least for Canada. So I finally got into a fertility clinic and went. It just wasn't, of course, then we go to a fertility clinic, and as soon as they start monitoring me, I can't get pregnant.
God.
So I do all these unmedicated natural cycles for them to just monitor everything, to know when I ovulate, and then give me progesterone and all that sort of stuff. So I do all these natural cycles because I was getting pregnant naturally.
Right.
And then I wasn't.
That's.
So just add in the new mystery.
Yeah.
So then it was another year before I had a chemical pregnancy. And
was that a medicated cycle?
It was not. So I still had, I hadn't progressed in my mind to doing a medicated cycle. I was so convinced that I could just get pregnant still. I was just like, but I've done it. I've done it. I can do it again. And then right around the time that we were hitting that year mark, I was like, okay, we should move on to something else. And then I had that chemical. So it sort of reset in my mind, see, it's still working,
right?
But not really working. And then again, we did sort of a year of just waiting. I was like, I'm not ready for IVF. I don't know if we need this. We had that, I just kept feeling hopeful. And then, so a year after that chemical, we did our first IVF.
Yeah.
And even with that, we did our IVF round, and I froze everything because there was thoughts of us PGS testing, but then we only ended up with 2 embryos. So, I guess at the time I was just like, this isn't cost effective.
Right.
It's not cost effective, and I don't want to get rid of 2 embryos if they have maybe a little something wrong with them. I don't know. It was a very emotional thing.
Absolutely.
When you don't have as much as you were hoping,
Yeah.
And then you're testing them, knowing that those tests aren't 100%.
Right.
And being like, they could just throw out a good embryo by accident.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder how many embryos are discarded because of that. I mean,
I wonder too.
I know that out of the 9 we sent from our second and third round, 4 of them were abnormal, but they were like severely abnormal. They were like missing chromosomes and had duplicate chromosomes, and of course those are placental cells. So does that mean the placenta, there's something wrong with the placenta, but the baby would have been fine? Like, you just
I know.
don't know.
It's such a new, I mean, even though it's been around for a number of years, it's still very new.
Right.
That test.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to know what the right thing to do is in those moments.
Absolutely.
And then especially when you're playing with emotions attached to all of this science, right?
And did part of you think that, well, I only have 2, so I'm scared to do a transfer, because then if it doesn't work, then I'll have 1.
Yes.
Like, that's how I thought.
Oh, that's exactly my thought. And my other thought, because I'd had so much loss, like so many miscarriages, I was like, one of these, there's a possibility I may have to use a surrogate.
Right.
And I was like, what am I going to do? I don't want to do a whole other IVF round if I have to use a surrogate. Maybe we should just save these for if we need a surrogate, and then try an IUI.
Yeah.
Because I'd never done an IUI.
Is surrogacy in Canada really expensive like it is in the States?
Surprisingly, okay, so in Canada, you're actually not allowed to charge for surrogacy.
Really?
However, it still ends up being, like, abnormally expensive, because you do have to pay, for legal fees, for all kinds of different stuff. Like, if somebody has to go on bed rest, you have to pay, all those types of expenses.
And their medical appointments and stuff.
And medical, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So you're still paying quite a bit out of pocket. I think they say the average cost of having a surrogate in Canada is somewhere between $40,000 and $80,000.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Except for, I think, the
Canadian
top
dollars.
Oh, yeah.
For you, that'd be a steal.
Yeah. For us, it's like, I think it's like 70 to 100,000. But actually, I think in the state of South Carolina, maybe it's not legal yet.
Yeah.
There are some states where it's not actually legal.
Right.
But, which to me is the weirdest thing.
It is.
I guess it's just really weird. But
yeah,
I feel like we've come so far in legalizing things.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes, but then so much regression too.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah, I remember a year or so ago, actually a year and a half ago, when we were in the middle of our treatments, there was like a hearing or some kind of legislative hearing where they were meeting to pass a bill where abortion was illegal.
Right.
And the language that was used in that bill was also going to cover IVF, because their stance on it was that the embryos cannot give their consent to be put in the uterus. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, very, very weird.
Do we have to get like tiny little pens
I know.
to like sign off on?
So then what do we do with them?
Under a microscope.
We can make babies, but we can't actually like carry them. So, but I guess it got tabled because the main issue that it didn't get passed was the fact that the bill, again, the language was such that if someone needed a medical like intervention, they couldn't. Basically,
Oh,
if it
right.
was their life or the baby's life, they could not basically do anything.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
there was a lot of people speaking out about that, and it kind of got tabled for a while, so that's
Right.
good.
Yeah. And so it should.
Yeah.
Tabled forever.
Tabled forever. Yeah, I mean, I'm not about being like, oops, I got pregnant,
Yeah.
like, and
No.
that kind of thing, but
But I mean, if someone does,
yeah,
I can give them my phone number.
right.
And they can just give me that baby.
Exactly. Right? Oh God.
Oh,
Don't drown it. Don't put it in a box. I listened to this weird
God,
sword and scale.
absolutely.
I mean, I was just kind of like so bored at work today. I was listening to Sword and Scale, the podcast,
Okay.
and this episode came on about women killing their children, and I just like, I guess I was like looking at Pinterest and stuff that I wasn't really even paying attention. But this one lady put her baby in a microwave. And I was just like, what am I listening to? What
Oh
is
my
this?
God.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
I couldn't even like I
There are just
just
so many other options. Like I like
yeah.
not for killing your baby.
Yeah, but like
Like there are other options to just get rid of the
right.
baby so that it's not near you.
Right,
It's
exactly.
a pretty simple thing.
Yeah. You don't have to cook it like a baked potato.
Oh my God.
Oh,
That's
Lord.
shocking.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that would pop you right out of like just scrolling through
no, yeah.
Pinterest.
I was like
Wait
and
a minute, what is this?
he goes, and this is how it sounded, and he like closed the microwave and put it on 2 minutes, and it was like and I was like, what? I was like, I gotta get out of here.
Oh
I
my
can't
God.
listen to this. I can't imagine a baby like rotating in a microwave
Oh my
right
God.
now.
No.
It made my
Nope.
skin crawl.
Yeah. Yep. That's what it's doing to me right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Jesus.
did you? I know that you and I have like discussed anxiety quite a lot in our DMs and things. Have you experienced anxiety your whole life? Is that something that's like hardwired into you, or is it something that was born of infertility?
So, I've definitely been an anxious person for most of my life. But I would say infertility is like, it just turns the volume up.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been anxious. I've been on, medication for anxiety as a person before infertility, and then was able to go off of it before I got pregnant. But with infertility comes this pile of anxiety.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've definitely experienced it for a lot of my life. And at different times of my life, it's been worse than others. And sometimes it's non-existent. And at other times, it's like turned up to the maximum.
Mm-hmm.
Where things become really difficult to even do anything.
Yeah.
So
I have to
infertility
say,
has definitely done that.
I really
at times.
like empathize. I studying psychology and things, like I could definitely identify with depression.
Yeah.
But learning about anxiety and how it works in the brain, I always felt like, God, that would be terrible to have, fear and panic and anxiety and all the things that come in that little package. And then when
Right.
I experienced it, I think, mine was largely situational, but
Yeah.
I think that I was like, this is what it feels like. And I just cannot imagine having to live like that. How did you cope with it when you were able to get off medication?
So the interesting thing was when I got off of my medication, everything was fine because I wasn't really coping with anything really intense in my life at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to sort of come off of it and deal and like be really okay. But the thing with what I find with anxiety is that once it sort of gets set off, sometimes it can be really hard to bring that down. And then if that sort of continues and continues, then that can also become depression. Because being that anxious and being like, oh my God, I can't function and I can't do stuff, and like, why am I like this, and why can't I just be normal, and why do I have to feel this way? And that sort of creates this dialogue in your mind of like, there's reasons for me to be super depressed, and like there's reasons, like, it just, you tell yourself all of these things. So it really does sort of kick off with anxiety, and then often can lead to really deep depression for some people.
Yeah, they're definitely.
And for me, I definitely have gone down that road a lot, dealing with infertility.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was cyclical, where it would just, like, each time you would have a miscarriage, you would kind of, I guess, go into a depression? Or did you feel like it was just everything about it, like trying and then failing?
I think, yeah. I think sometimes we're worse than others. And I think sometimes it just sort of depended on where my headspace was with other things as well. But definitely for me, sort of the later the loss was, and the more like I sort of worked through some of my anxieties, because early pregnancy is very anxiety provoking for me. So I'd sort of work my way through all this anxiety and be getting to the other side of it. And then it would be like, oh, I'm having another miscarriage. And then that would like just set it all off again.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. Even with, doing just natural cycles and being disappointed over and over and over again would get really hard. And like hard on your relationship and hard on you mentally, like sort of everything it's all encompassing. But yeah, I found really for me, a lot, I would say the anxiety with not getting pregnant and then the anxiety in early pregnancy are my absolute worst.
Yeah.
And I would say they sort of run hand in hand.
Now, I know that I've talked to people that have had chronic anxiety their whole life, and they're like on medication and things, and they say, now I know it's irrational. Like, I know this feeling is irrational, and it's like I can't control it. But with infertility, it's not irrational to think that you're going to have another miscarriage, because you have been crept on so many times, and it's like muscle memory. Your body is like telling you, well, I can't go any further than that. Like, I can't give you any more than that. And so it is a rational anxiety, which is probably why it's worse.
Yes, it is so much more why it's worse, because you can't sort of say to yourself, oh, like, I need to calm down.
Yeah.
Like, everything's going to be fine. You can't do that. For me, it's, even now, it's 100% of my pregnancies have ended. So my rate of failure is 100%. So it's very hard to combat anxiety within that. Because you look at your evidence and you're like, well, this is shit.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. But for me, some of my coping in those times is to almost like try to forget that I'm pregnant, because it's like kind of the only way I can get through it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Whatever works.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think whatever works for those small periods of time, whether it's, what works for you when you're not able to get pregnant, or it works for you while you're pregnant, or, it's just finding the things that work. Because I think for everybody, it's something different. There are obviously specific things that are helpful and proven to be helpful, but everyone's got their own thing.
Yeah, like spin class.
Spin class, for sure. You know me so well. Yeah, I mean, for sure.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. See, but it's probably not your thing.
It's a no from me.
But for sure, exercise is one of those things that is a proven helper with anxiety, because you're burning sort of that energy that's like just going on in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can burn some of that energy, and you can do it through usually more of a cardio type exercise than anything else, that is generally pretty helpful with anxiety and just bringing that level down.
Yeah, that's good. I've had people write me and be like, you said you struggled with anxiety. Like, how did you get through it? And my answer really is, I have no idea. Like, I just kept myself busy. I have no idea. I really don't.
Yeah.
Cannot advise.
I mean, distraction and keeping busy is a huge thing. Because when I'm not anxious, I love my alone time, and I love being at home and relaxing. But when I'm anxious, that seems like torturous to me.
Yeah.
So I almost have to just distract myself with, like, go out with a friend who talks a lot.
So you can sit there and be like, God, they talk a lot.
Yeah, just you have to be like, throw yourself into something and like get out of that headspace.
Oh yeah.
Because you're just spiraling.
Yes.
You're just spiraling, and if you can just stop that a little bit for a little bit of time and like back yourself up even a small bit, you can sort of see the other side and be like, oh, I don't have to be so anxious right now. I can sort of simmer around 2 or 3 instead of being at 10.
Right.
So I definitely find that, like, getting out and being with people and doing stuff, which feels horrible. Like, when you think about doing it, you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do anything because I feel so anxious.
Yeah.
But then when you actually do it, you're like, I haven't felt anxious in a few minutes or this whole night.
Yeah.
It becomes different. It's so funny. I'm getting a call on my other line from the blood donation clinic, which is like, I don't think they want me. Like, look, my veins are like bled dry.
I have no blood for you people.
No blood.
I have no blood.
Which is sad, because I'm actually O negative. I'm a wonderful blood donor.
Oh.
But I give too much blood for tests that I don't even think they want me. I mean, I would just die on their table. Be like, I have no blood left. You guys can try. I've had 20 blood tests this week.
Oh, Lord.
I have not had 20 blood tests this week.
Yeah, I always see you, well, I mean, you've given up Starbucks at this point, so, but usually you're out and about, walking dogs, and checking on cats.
Yes.
And usually...
Your favorite.
Despite me not liking cats, I do a really great cat impression.
Was that a hiss?
Yeah, it was a hiss.
Yeah, you can only do an angry cat because that's probably what you think of them.
That's the only way I communicate with cats. Like, if I see one, I'll go, so they'll run away. I never used to hate cats until I lived with people that had cats.
Right. And like, it sounds like they were bad ones.
And they were just like not clean people.
Oh yeah, you told me about this.
Yeah, there's just a lot of cat people. Like, your house is like spotless, but there's a lot of cat people out there that think just because, I don't know what they think, but they're just dirty people.
Yeah.
They're like,
No,
oh, this is fine. This is fine.
I've been to like a cat house that has one cat and it smells horrible.
Oh.
And then I've been to a house that has 5 cats and it smells like roses.
Okay, so
it definitely depends on the people.
I used to work for a babysitting service back when I was like in my 20s.
Yeah.
And this totally like gets to anxiety. This is totally
we're gonna get back there
like
somehow.
Yeah, we're gonna get back there, and this is how we get there. I had to babysit for these people, and they had 6 cats.
Wow.
In like this, it was like a 3-bedroom house, but they had 6 cats. Each of them had a water bowl and a food bowl.
That just seems unnecessary.
And they just were like lined up in the kitchen, like 12 of them, and I was just like, oh my God. And I was running late when I went over to their house, so I picked up Wendy's.
Yep.
And
I had Wendy's today.
Did you really?
I did.
Did you have a Frosty?
I did.
You bet.
You know what's so funny? I went in there. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I went in there. I had these like free Frosty like little like coupons, but apparently they were only for like one location. But I didn't realize it until I'd already ordered it. And then I handed the thing to the girl, and she was like, "Oh yeah, this is valid," and like poured the Frosty. And then someone else looked at it, and she was like, "Yeah, but it's not for this location." And I was like, "Well, what are you gonna do with that poured Frosty?" And she was like, "I'm gonna give it to you." And I was like, "Damn right."
Oh, I have not had a Frosty in a coon's age.
They're not that good.
So
it wasn't that good.
So I pick up Wendy's. I get to their house. I'm like eating, and I notice, like, I just looked down at my shirt, and I had cat hair all over my shirt. And I hadn't done anything but walked in the door and sat down at the table. And I was like, screw this. I was so pissed. I threw away all my food. And I do have.
You threw away your clothes.
Yeah, and then I burned my clothes when I got home. I just I was just like, ugh, cats. Oh, they're so horrible. Yeah. So
oh my God.
Cats. Yeah, cats.
Yeah.
Cats.
How does this get back to anxiety?
Cats give me anxiety.
There it is.
See how I did a U-turn there, and I wrapped it up nicely.
You did.
No, but I do, like, I have food anxiety. This is like, I never realized it was actually a thing until I was an adult, but I get so anxious if someone else has cooked dinner, and I'm like, did they wash their hands when they cooked this? Like, I mean, I don't think this way when I go through fast food, like drive-thrus, which is really psychotic, but I get really bad food anxiety when someone else I know has prepared food at their house.
That's interesting. I think my mom is a lot like that, actually.
Yeah, so, it's very strange.
I think it's very common, though.
Is
like,
it?
I don't think it's a weird thing. I think it's probably more common than you think, and people just don't talk about it.
Yeah, except for me, because like, oh man,
because I'm not super anxious about food stuff like that. But every once in a while, when I like don't know what they're making, I get a little bit worried.
That's the worst when they're like, "Do you guys want to come over for dinner?" And you're like,
what are you? What's
on
the menu?
Should I pick up barbecue on my way?
And you must deal with that, being a picky eater.
Oh my God. When I lived in England, I lived with my mother-in-law for a little bit with Daniel. But Daniel was like, okay, she only eats white meat chicken. He had to like tell her, I didn't tell him to tell her this, but she was so respectful. Like, she knows how weird I am now. She knows that, because the English, they eat like once a day. And then they have tea like 4 times a day.
Right.
So she knows like Candace has to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner because she's an American. And if she doesn't eat, she's going to turn into a crazy person. So the people that know me know that I'm like that.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I get really, really worried.
I feel like that's fair.
I get really
I mean, you
scared.
are speaking to a highly anxious person,
Yeah.
so maybe I'm just like, oh yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's
Everyone
not
listening to this is just
normal
like,
at all.
what are these two talking about?
I know.
This is so abnormal.
It is. It is. I know that it is. But it's just
Right.
like, I'm scared. I don't know. It's just so weird. And the more aware I become of food and what's in food these days, I'm just like even more anxious about everything.
Oh, and has pregnancy made that more prominent?
You know what's really weird? It's kind of the opposite.
Really?
In my first trimester, I was on a steroid. And I was just kind of like eating everything that I could get my hands on. And I even told Daniel once that I can't remember what I was eating, but I usually pick apart things because I'm a freak like that. And I didn't. I just like, yeah, exactly. I didn't. I just like ate it. Like just ate it. And he was like, "Who are you?"
I'm hungry.
I know, and I was just like, "Give me food." I was eating like several meals a day. It was ridiculous. That steroid, oh my God.
That is so funny. Were you
Tell
on
you
a low dose
No.
steroid?
I mean,
On a higher dose?
I was on 20 milligrams a day initially, which is a pretty high dose.
Yeah, that's pretty high. Yeah.
And then my blood work came back that it showed some inflammation, so they upped it to 40 milligrams a day.
Oh,
and that's when things got really out of control.
Yeah. Those steroids, they'll change you.
It turned me into a different
They
person, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Michelin Man.
Absolutely. I wonder if that contributed to some anxiety for you too.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because I think steroids can cause a bit more like insomnia, anxiety, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It was terrible. I mean, I really couldn't sleep. I really felt out of control. And that's not something that I've ever really dealt with before.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a strange time, I think, because everything with fertility and early pregnancy is totally out of your control.
Oh, yeah.
And even for me, sort of feeling new symptoms was like all I was doing was would spot new symptoms.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, this was a weird feeling. Is this supposed to be happening? Is this okay? Like, is this going to make me feel any different? Like, I would just spiral. And I do that, with other things as well. But pregnancy and infertility are by far the worst things to do that with because you really have zero control.
Absolutely. And I feel like even if you don't struggle with anxiety normally, this process is all about waiting. And it's all about baby steps to the next appointment, which is in 2 days. Well, then that appointment was a WTF appointment. So then you have a baseline in 3 weeks, and then you're counting down the days for that. And it's all about these like stupid little milestones that you'll forget about in the grand scheme of things. You won't even remember. And it's just like it's all waiting, and it's just anxious all the time.
It is. And even when you're not, you kind of are just resonating there, right? Like there's always like this little bit. Even when you're like, I feel pretty good. You're like, yeah, but
it's like a backpack.
All that infertility and
you're still like wearing this like heavy set of weights that you're still carrying around, and it's just like still there.
Yeah, and it just doesn't subside.
Right. So to recap, if others are struggling with anxiety, whether it's situational or whether it's something they regularly deal with, keep yourself busy.
Yep.
Get out.
Yep.
Go sit with a friend who talks too much.
Absolutely. I mean, you could call one of us.
Yeah. Just turn on one of our podcasts and act like you're sitting.
Just answer back.
Yeah.
You know, just it'll be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think even just a couple other suggestions for people. Therapy.
Therapy.
Really, really helpful if you can find that in your area, especially if you're in, a place that has fertility or infertility specific therapists. That's really helpful because then you don't have to explain everything that you're going through. They just kind of get it.
Yeah.
I think you'd said at some point that journaling was really helpful for you too.
Yeah, I think I would write a list of things down that I was worried or anxious about. And then I would kind of look at the sentence and be like, okay, well, I would just like take each sentence as it was and be like, okay. And the first sentence would be, I'm worried that I'll miscarry. And so I would be like, okay, that's a valid worry. Like I would validate myself.
Yeah.
And then I would try and think, whatever I'm doing now is not going to cause me to miscarry.
Right.
Or not miscarry. So it's really out of my control. So today I'm pregnant and, I just can't get ahead of myself.
Right.
And so I would do that with little things that I had. If you're dealing with anxiety just in general and you're thinking, I know this is like kind of catastrophizing, but it's like, I'm scared my parents are going to die, or I'm scared my husband's going to die. Because I also think that way too sometimes. You hear about these women who are like, yeah, my husband got in a car accident on the way to work. And so I'm just like, I'm scared I'm going to lose Daniel, and that's a valid worry. That's a valid worry, but there's nothing really to make me feel like that will happen,
Exactly.
So it's...
And definitely, you're right. Like sometimes seeing those thoughts just written out, you're like, okay, like that's a valid worry, but I don't have to let this consume me.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure. And I think that journaling and therapy and like talking to people about that sort of stuff is really helpful.
Yeah, especially like talking to you.
Even if the stuff that you're thinking sounds, even if the stuff sounds like crazy coming out of your mouth, often people will be understanding. Yeah,
and I think that...
And we'll get it.
Reaching out to you, because I knew that you had dealt with anxiety a lot. And I don't think in the beginning I told you why I was so anxious. I eventually did tell you, but I think that just kind of talking to you and just kind of telling you how I was feeling was therapy for me. And you did help me with like some of the coping as well. But I think just like telling someone your concerns and telling someone the way you feel is like huge, because it's like you're releasing it. It's like you're getting it out of your head.
Yeah, because I think that some like additional anxiety comes from being worried about people knowing about your anxiety.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it too. Is to be like, I don't want to be like, I don't want people to think I'm weird, or like, for me, I've had panic attacks, and I'm like, I don't want to have a panic attack in front of someone because then they're going to think I'm weird. And nobody thinks you're weird. They just feel bad.
Yeah. They just don't know how to help you.
Can I do something for you?
Exactly. And I think that partners too, like Daniel was just like, I've never seen you like this. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to help you. And then at times he would be like, everything's going to be fine. This is it. This is it for us. And That didn't help.
No.
So
Because you want to feel validated.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You want to feel like the things that you're worrying about are things that you should or can be worrying about. But, like, you know, have someone to be like, I understand that you're feeling this way, but let's figure out a way to, you know, help you not feel so much that way.
yeah, let's go to Target.
Yeah.
That helps.
Man, you know what the worst thing about Canada is? That there's no Target.
No Target.
And the worst thing is that there was Target.
I heard
for
about
like
that.
a couple of years, and then they took that shit away.
You know what? Someone wrote
It
me.
was like giving you like a taste of like, here's a little bit of heroin. Do you want to come back for more? And now I'm like, what do I do? I need my fix.
But did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay, so I've heard that Canadians didn't like Target and that
That's insane.
it didn't survive in Canada because Canadians didn't like it.
So here's what I think the problem was, is that, number one, they opened up way too many Targets. Like, they just exploded.
What? Is that even a thing? Too many Targets?
Well, they opened too many at once, and then they couldn't keep up. So they couldn't keep up with stock. So some Targets would be emptier than others, and it just wasn't like a regular Target because they just weren't able to stock it. And then the pricing, because they were doing an exchange rate on everything, I think was not quite as cheap seeming. So people were just like, this is bull. Like, this is an American Target. And it was like, no shit, it's Canadian Target.
That'll be 50 Canadian dollars, please.
For this t-shirt that's on sale. But I really liked it. I was like, you know, they'll get there with the sale stuff and like they'll get more stuff in, but then they just never did. And so they just started failing because they weren't able to stock everything. They weren't able to offer the deals that, you know, you guys get. And so people just started not going. And I think it was because there was too many locations. I think if they started smaller and like built up, it would have gone a lot better. Listen to me. I'm like I know how to run Target.
I am impressed by your business acumen right now. Your strategery. Listen up, Target.
Yeah, I should have gone in. I should have consulted them on this.
Yeah, you should have. I'm sorry that you don't have Target. Do you ever, like, I know you cross over the border to go to Trader Joe's. Do you ever?
I do.
Is there a Target around?
Yes. It's like next to the Trader Joe's.
Oh,
so
God
I do
bless.
Like, there's like a Target and a Trader Joe's, and then there's like a Nordstrom Rack, which we have Nordstrom Rack here, so that's not like a huge thing, but you know, it's good. I hit all that stuff. I hit some of the grocery stores like in Buffalo because that's where we drive into.
How far is that from you?
It's like 2 hours.
Okay, that's not bad.
So we're like, Toronto's pretty close to the border.
Yeah.
So we can, like, I can drive to Buffalo and back in a day easily. But then the border people think I'm crazy because they're like, you spent $100 in groceries and you came all the way here, and I'm like, yeah.
And all you bought was Perfect bars, ma'am?
All we bought were like...
We're going to have to inspect those Perfect bars.
You just bought Polar Seltzer? Come on, lady.
I don't buy it. This is a trick.
Or I could... You know what's a really funny thing in Canada? When you guys have LaCroix, we call it La Croix.
La Croix, yeah.
Because
that's how
it's French. It's a French word. And so we say it like the right way.
Yeah.
Except that I think the makers of LaCroix call it LaCroix. So I think I'm in the wrong.
Oh, they don't know.
But, you know, it's really cute up here. Everybody's like, La Croix, La Croix. Oh, I love that La Croix. Yeah, very funny.
Do you like La Croix?
I do. You know, I found that there are different flavors of it, like, throughout the U.S.
Yeah.
In, like, different places. And there's a cola flavor.
What?
Yeah.
But not sweet.
Not sweet. and it's
How
wonderful.
strange might that taste?
I've had it. It's very good. It's one of my favorites. It's like if you need to like quit drinking Coke, it's a good,
Like a transition.
yeah, it's a good transition.
Interesting. I like the coconut one.
Yeah, a lot of people dislike the coconut one.
Really?
It gets a lot of flack.
Really?
Yeah.
I like
It
that
does.
one.
I think like even on the internet it gets a lot of flack.
Oh my goodness.
People are like, who made this coconut flavored? But I really like the coconut flavor to mix with juices.
Yeah, it's like coconutty, but you're wanting that sweetness. So I can understand. Maybe it feels like there's something missing.
Yeah.
But I
don't know
like
what
it.
I like it. I like the coconut too.
I'm not a huge carbonated beverage person.
Right. And then our house goes through them like it actually is water.
Really?
Which it is.
It is.
Yeah.
With bubbles.
We go through it like water. Who knew?
Well, I think I've taken up a lot of your time. By my
I'm fine with that.
timer, it looks like I've taken up an hour and 15 minutes of your time. But
I figured this would happen.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I couldn't have thought of anybody that I would have wanted more on the episode. So thanks. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
bundle.
And I feel so honored.
Oh, and I feel honored that you made
very
time
honored.
for us. I really hope
Absolutely.
that this episode helps people, because I know that, like we were talking about, some of the anxiety is really situational in infertility, and maybe some people who are just starting to try to have a baby are entering this new world like we did at one point, where you're like entering this cycle of like, what's going on? Why isn't it happening? Being anxious. So I hope this helps people out there, anxiety virgins and veterans alike.
Yeah, me too. And I hope everybody knows that I'm always available for anxiety talk or suggestions.
Tell us how we can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at rockabye
Rockabye maybe.
Not
Rockabye.
rockabye.
That was a little who sings that song? Who sings that song? You know, it's a weird song, and it's like he's talking the whole song, and then he's like, everything's gonna be alright.
Oh, Sean Mullins?
Oh my gosh.
Is it Sean Mullins?
Yeah.
It's correct. And
Yeah.
I think it's called
Rockabye.
Rockabye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So at Rockabye maybe.
That should be my song.
Yeah, it should be. Thank you so much, Alexandra Slate. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your anxiety expertise.
I mean, I'd love to not have anxiety, but I'm really glad I can help other people out with it.